So SQL and Azure, I'm going to drop out of this slide deck and I'm going to provision something in Azure real quick. You see that all right? Let me see if I can make that bigger. So here's my dashboard. This is a resource group that I created earlier called Azure Bootcamp. And we're going to go in here. Within my resource group, I want to add a virtual machine. Being a little bit slow. Right. So here we've got, if I just wanted to deploy a Windows server, we've got that there. So whatever, let's go. Windows SQL Server 2014. Here you get the option to do it as a classic, which is the service manager, the all portal. We're going to do it in the new one, resource manager. Click create. And I am on our Wi-Fi here, which is probably not the fastest, especially if we're broadcasting out at the same time. So this is all pretty basic stuff here, right? Username, password, subscription I want to use an existing resource group. We're going to put it in the bootcamp, and the location you can see here, you got all these different ones. Obviously we want South Central US. Choose a size. Now this is a virtual machine, right? This is not platform, so SQL comes in running on an IaaS machine, but it also comes as a platform as a service offering to where you don't need to manage your operating system, right? I'm going to show you both. But for the purpose of this, here you can see the different sizes of machines available. DS1 V2 there, 1 core, 3.5 gig. It's $47.62 a month, right? Let's go with this one because it's going to provision it faster if I do 2 cores and 7 gig.
Extra power for literally minutes.
Yeah. Elastic compute, right? So this is basically, doesn't really matter for the purpose of this demonstration. I can accept the defaults here, but if you virtual network, right? You can already see we have different virtual networks here. So we're going to create a new one, new default subnet. We can give it a public IP so I can get to it without doing any site-to-site VPN. Here's where I would put it in an availability set. Now, I can do that even though, you can't put a machine in an availability set after you've provisioned it, right? So if you think you're going to use an availability set, provision it with your first machine, right? Monitoring enabled. We're not going to put diagnostics on right now, but you could if you're having, operating system issues. Connectivity. So you can say, I only want it to talk within itself. Private, so that's everything within the VNet or anything that's connected to your VNet. So your on-premise environment, for example, or you can make it public over the internet. 1433, usual stuff here. Automated patching, well, you could say, no, we don't want that on. Automated backup. Now this is sort of out of the box SQL backup. And that's basically going to snapshot your machine and give you, it's part of the sort of SQL offering, so you don't necessarily need to worry about backing up if you just turn that feature on.
Snapshot it once a day? Or replicated constantly?
For this one, well, see, I wouldn't use this for SQL. I don't know the frequency, but it's basically Yeah, I don't know how often the automated snapshots are taken actually, but we're going to get to the options for backing up this stuff. There's so many options. So it runs a final validation, validation passed, and then we get to deployment. So it's 3:35. We'll see how long that takes. Now if I go here to SQL databases, right, this is something separate. Right, this is platform as a service, so I can say, that's my name. I can go down here and use my existing resource group. Where is it? We're just going to put a sample database in there. And then here's where we actually configure. Now, you can see I've already got 4 SQL platform as a service database servers running here, right? Now I could just put my new instance on one of these existing SQL servers if I want, or I can say, no, I want my own. We want the latest V12 SQL Server, and I want to allow Azure services to access the server. All right, so that's basically your firewall settings from within Azure. Want to use SQL Elastic Pool? Well, we don't right now, but Elastic Pool is pretty cool because you can create one Elastic Pool and say, I want to deploy a bunch of databases to my pool, and they can all share the resources assigned to the pool. But they can't sort of go past, I don't know, $200 usage per month, right? So if you've got one database that he needs to have, X amount of DTUs for a couple of hours here and there, well, he's got access to everything that you've assigned to the pool, and the other databases might not need to use anything at that time, right? So it's a way of sort of giving infrequent access to resources to a bunch of databases, right, within sort of a controlled cost model. So it's pretty cool. We're not going to do it for this, obviously, but pricing tier. So this is where I would choose my level of performance. And again, this is Azure SQL, right, platform as a service. So this is not specifying a particular virtual machine. This is, these are sort of calculated sort of levels of performance. If we go right down to the bottom, we can have a basic 5 database transaction units. So that's sort of a DTU is a sort of an allocated size. It's based on compute, RAM, and IOPS, right? There is some correlation between CPU and memory. We're not going to get into what that computation is right now, but for 5 DTUs, you can have a database up to 2 gig in size. It has geo-replication by default. You have a point-in-time restore, and you get auditing, and it's going to cost you $5 a month, right? Or if you need something a bit more than that, we can have 4,000 DTU instance. Your database can be up to 1 terabyte in size. Again, you get the geo-replication, point-in-time restore, and that's going to run you 16 grand a month. So I'm not going to select that one, even for a few minutes. But I will do this one. Now, that's going to validate. And that's submitted for deployment as well. So now I've got 2 things running. So while those are going, let's go back to the PowerPoints, and I can at least go through some of this stuff. So the difference between SQL database, which is basically the platform as a service one, optimized to reduce your overall costs. You don't have to manage the operating system. you've got less administration, right? You don't have to manage any virtual machines. You don't even have to manage your backups, right? Because it's all included in the platform as a service offering. So it's a really, if you want to just have a SQL database and you're not really bothered about, you know, any of the features you get with the SQL product running on an actual VM, then the Azure SQL offering is a great starting point. You know, there could be instances where that doesn't suit, though. You know, if you want to sort of have more administration rights over the SQL instance itself, then it's best to put it on a cloud-based virtual machine. Then you're having really then the same sort of experience as if it's running on a VM in your own data center. But whatever you go with here, once that database is provisioned, whether it's here or here on a VM or a platform as a service, you just use the same tools as you always use to manage that database, right? You can run SQL Server Management Studio on your machine here, give it the path to the database in the cloud, and you just use, you know, you're just administering it from your machine here. It's exactly the same. So we saw that there's different database tiers, basic, standard, and premium. They all come with different levels of performance and billing. You can move databases from IaaS to PaaS, which is great if you have something complex on premise now, but you're running out of physical hardware. What can you do? You can migrate that database off premise to, you know, a pretty high performance virtual machine relatively quickly, right? You just need to copy that file up there, restore the SQL database onto your SQL VM running in Azure, and then when you're ready to you can do some testing and start thinking about porting it off the VM into the platform as a service offering 3 months later if you want, right? So there is a transitional path there. There's tools to help you move away from IaaS to PaaS if that's what ultimately you'd like to do. You know, the sort of headache of managing a virtual machine just to run SQL, you know, it's not for everybody, right? But then for some, you might need to have it more globally distributed. You might want to use load balancing, traffic manager. You know, you might want it running on VMs. So the options are there. This is just an overview of the levels of performance you're going to get with Azure SQL. Again, we touched on that already. So we're going to deploy now this S3. You've got max sessions, concurrent logins, you know, and it's all sort of, it all scales up with the size of size of the instance that you deploy. Here's the elastic database pools, similar thing. You know, what do you need to deploy in order to get that pool size? So the eDTUs, right? This is basically the CPU memory combined into a DTU unit. If you go with the biggest premium PaaS offering, you're going to get 1,500 DTUs, maximum storage 750 gig per pool. You can put 50 database on there, right, and have 28,000 concurrent sessions. So pretty cool. And again, you know, your pool is the boundary for sort of the cost of those things. Two links there for going to estimate your cost of deploying it on PaaS or in an elastic pool.